Hi everyone, welcome to the Science 8 review series. This is going to cover latitude and longitude, a little crash course on the topic, so here we go. Number 1, latitude lines. So these are also called parallels because they never touch. So they're drawn like this. As you can see, they never cross. So this is what they look like on the globe. And they're used to, they're drawn west to east. And the first line of latitude is called the equator, which is, you could see labeled right here, and that's considered 0 degrees. So it splits the Earth into a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. We live in the northern hemisphere. We're like over here. So if you want to pinpoint, I don't know, New York, maybe, or whatever this location is, you would say it's a certain amount of degrees north of the equator. If you want to do this spot down here, you would say, oh, it's a certain number of degrees south of the equator. So the line you always start at is the equator to do latitude. Here's an example of what they look like. Now, remember, they're not actually drawn on the Earth. This is just a system that we use in order to pinpoint certain locations on the planet. So we had to make the Earth into a grid, essentially, like in math class. And then we're able to go to certain spots and know what you're talking about. We can't just say, oh, go 5 miles into the ocean. You won't know where to go. So here's what they look like from the side view. And here's what they look like from the top view. So they're actually circular because the Earth is a sphere, but if you were to look at it from the side, they would just look like straight lines. So on a piece of paper, you'll always see them drawn like this. But on a globe, in real life, they would look like this. Okay, so we're going to draw some X's. I'm going to do a couple of examples, and then you're going to do a couple examples. So if I put, I don't know, an X here, right? I would say this is how many degrees north or south of the equator. So first we find the equator, which is here, and then we say, oh, is this X north? Here's your compass, cheat sheet. Is this X north of the line I just drew or south? Well, it's north. It's above it. And then you say, oh, how many degrees north? Well, look, it's 20 degrees. So this X is 20 degrees north. All right, now you try. I'm going to put a triangle somewhere and you get the right answer or not. Here we go. There's your little triangle. So what is that? What latitude is the triangle? All right, so you start from the equator. You say, oh, is the triangle north or south? Well, it's south. How many degrees south? Oh, 40 degrees south. Hopefully you got that. Let's do one more. We'll put a circle somewhere. How about right there? First you do, okay, is it north or south of the equator? Well, it's north of the equator. How many degrees north? Well, this looks like it's between 40 and 50, so this looks like 45 degrees north. All right, so there's your little practice questions with latitude. So lines of latitude run west to east. That's how they're drawn. They are measured in north or south. And the maximum height that you can go is 90 degrees north. So 90 degrees north would be like the tippy top. This is called the North Pole. And 90 degrees south would be like down here. This is called, you guessed it, the South Pole. Okay, so coincidentally, we have a star in the northern hemisphere that can tell us what our latitude is. This is called Polaris. It's the North Star. You might have heard of it before. It's not very bright at all, but if you were to measure how high the North Star is above the ground, that would tell you your latitude. So the altitude means height. The altitude of Polaris is equal to your latitude. So if this is the star Polaris, and I were to measure the distance in degrees from the ground to that star height right here, this would be my latitude. So this looks like 45-degree angle. So that means that this person down here is standing at 45 degrees north of the equator. This only works in the north because it's the North Star. So you can't do this in the southern hemisphere. It doesn't work. They don't have it. So check it out. What is the latitude of the observer? It's always the altitude between the horizon and the star. So find the horizon and find the star. The star is Polaris. So here's the horizon. Here's Polaris. This is the number you want. So 66.5 degrees north. Remember, it's always north for the latitude of Polaris. All right, let's see if you can do these. I will give you a couple of examples and you can see if you can get it. Polaris is at the following angles in the sky. Name what latitude you would be standing at. Number 1. If Polaris is at 60 degrees, that means that I'm standing at 60 degrees north. Remember, it always has to be north when you're talking about Polaris if you're in the northern hemisphere. All right, so what's 30 degrees? If the star is at 30 degrees, what's the latitude? Hopefully you said 30 degrees north. How about 42? This is actually where we live. So if the star is 42 degrees altitude, high in the sky, where are we? We're at 42 degrees north. If Polaris is 0 degrees high in the sky, this actually means we are at 0 degrees, which is the equator. Now, the equator does not have a north or a south after it because it's not in the northern hemisphere or the south. It's like directly on the middle. So if you look at the picture of the equator over here, if we go back to the pictures, see 0 right across? This is all north up here. This is all south. Whoops. 0 is right in the middle, so we don't put north or south after that. All right, going back to where we were. Not visible anywhere below the equator. So you can't see it if you're below the equator. It's only in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so now we're going to talk about longitude. This is the up and down version of the grid on the globe. So we did the left to right. We did the latitudes. Now we got to do the up and downs to make a grid, because then we'll be able to pinpoint locations. So the prime meridian is going to be 0 degrees longitude. That's your dividing line. Now, it splits the Earth into an eastern hemisphere and a western hemisphere, depending on which side of the prime meridian you're on. This is the east, and this is the west. The maximum amount you can go around the Earth is 180 degrees. You can go halfway around, and then you'll be in the other hemisphere, because the Earth is a sphere. Longitude lines are called meridians because they look like this. They're half circles. You can see them all on the picture. The starting line for all the lines of longitude is the prime meridian, and then it splits the globe into the eastern and western hemispheres. So picture, they drew a line on the actual ground as a tourist attraction. There's the place where they discovered it. It's in England. It's called Greenwich, England. This was where this was discovered. It's spelled like that. It looks like Greenwich, but it's Greenwich, England. Okay, so we're going to draw some x's of longitudes only. So I'll do an example. We'll do the same thing. We'll do an x, a triangle, and a circle. Okay, so I'm going to draw an x as an example. So x, I put it here. So now we're doing longitude. So we're going to look for the prime meridian. This is the starting point. Now did I go, we'll do our cheat sheet compass. Longitudes are always east and west. So did I go east of the prime meridian, or did I go west of the prime meridian to get that x? Well, it's to the west. How many degrees west? 60. There you go, 60 degrees west. So now you're going to do the triangle. Let's do triangle here. Okay, first you go to the prime meridian, right there. Then you say, oh, is it east or west? It's east. How many degrees east? 20 degrees east. All right, one more. We'll do a circle. All right, go to the prime meridian. Is it east or west? It's west. How many degrees west? 90 degrees west. All right, so that's longitude. So they could go all the way up to 180, which would be the opposite side of 0. So if you look at the front, this is 0 degrees here. On the opposite side, like in the board, is 180. There's the back. So lines in longitude run north and south. They measure east and west of the prime meridian. Now, the opposite side of the prime meridian, this is a 3D picture, is called International Dateline. That's at 180 degrees. So we're going to do a little cheat sheet at the end to help remember all this. Okay. So let's do this. 0 degrees equals the equator. And this is latitude. Longitude 0 degrees equals the prime meridian. Longitude 180 degrees equals the international dateline. We could say, what's the maximum latitude you can have? That was 90 degrees. The maximum longitude you can have is 180 degrees. So there's a little cheat sheet. Okay, so now we're going to do a full coordinate and see if you can get it. So we're going to combine both steps. So I'm going to do the first one. I'll do the x. So the first step is always put a parentheses. We've done coordinates in math. First is the latitude, which is degrees north or south of the equator. So I'm going to look at the x. I'm going to say, okay, find the equator, which is right here. Is it north or south? It's north. How many degrees north? 75 degrees north. Comma. Now we're going to do the longitude. The longitude's the prime meridian. That's this one. Zero degrees right here. It splits it into the eastern and western hemisphere, remember. So x, is it east of the prime meridian or west of the prime meridian? It's east. How many degrees east? 30 degrees east. So there's a full coordinate. This is what you're going to want to have to do. Alright, I'm going to do a triangle, see if you can get the full coordinate. Here we go. How about right down here? Right on this grid X. Alright, so the first thing you do, you go to the equator, right here. Is it north or south? It's south. How many degrees south? 30 degrees south. Comma, find the prime meridian, right here. Is it east or west? It's east. How many degrees east? 60 degrees east. Yay, that's it. I will do one more, the circle. We'll do make this the hardest one. There we go. Let's do right about here. Okay. So it looks like go to the equator. Is it north or south? It's south. How many degrees south? This looks like between 30 and 60 degrees south. So we'll say this is 45 degrees south, comma. Then you go to the prime meridian. Is it east or west? It's west. How many degrees west? 90 degrees west. That was what the answer was. All right, we're going to do one more as a bonus. We'll do a star. See if you can get the star. Let's do right here. It's on the lines. Alright, first thing you do, is it north or south of the equator? Oh no, it's on the equator. That means it's 0 degrees. You don't put north and south for that, because it's not north or south, it's in the middle. So we don't use north or south. And prime meridian's here. Is it east or west? It's west. So that's 30 degrees west. Alright, so that's your little crash course on latitude and longitude. I hope all is well, and I will see you on the next video. Bye!